I'm just a realist, and I think that ultimately these are extremely complicated things to achieve because human beings are complicated by nature, and even more so when you reach levels of power and influence. You can see that in the music business. Anybody who reaches a certain level of influence and power has a tendency to exert that power in an arbitrary way, and to the point where it affects others who are trying to, get a little bit of that sunshine, on their faces. Not even on whole their body, but just their faces, and they're not even given, permitted that opportunity. And unless you're gonna be willing to, literally put on your big boys gloves, and grab all the courage you have in you to push and go forward, no matter the cost, it's just not going to happen. Nobody's going to serve anything to you. Knowing that, and you're going to understand exactly what I mean, where I'm going with this. I've always been doing all I've done by myself. I've not received any financial support from anyone, and in my whole career, let's not lie, in my career, anybody who's given me, I think there was one person in 22 years that gave me 10,000 euros, one person. And this person was far away from anyone I could have imagined would have been willing to give me that money, knowing that they would not see it back, because this is in the music industry, for example, especially if you're in a niche kind of industry, the money you spend, you're not going to see it back, and so it's an investment on the long term, so you will indeed see it coming back into your pocket as time goes. But unfortunately, if you expect a direct return on your money, it's just not happening, and being very clear and honest with that person, which already was making me feel kind of weird because I had never taken any money from anyone. That person's like, look, I don't even need the money back. You're my brother, got you. I was like, whoa. Yeah. I don't even need you to drop my name, do none of that shit. Yo, for real. And for real. Never ever I heard this person come back to me saying this, that, and the other. Proud of what I did with the money, because I used the money exactly for what it was intended to be used for. Where most people would have probably, cut that money in half or more than that, and do whatever nonsense with it, and then provided something, of a much lesser, quality, as far as the result of what that money was intended for. All that to say that when you then start hearing people say, well, what is your contribution to this? What is contribution to that? But like, what do you know? Because the thing is that, we hear about all of these great, coalitions, different communities, leaders of communities coming together and, having conversations and, doing all these like Zoom calls and dinners and this and that. And I have to honestly ask a lot more people than those around me. Have you ever seen any of these conversations or resolutions or monies impacting anyone you know directly? I'll wait for your response. I'm pretty sure I'm going to wait a long time. And not saying that it's not impacting some people are not benefiting from it. I'm not saying that. But the point of the matter is, if we are really being honest, these resources are not made available for our people, as they love to say. It is made available for a select amount of people, which again may not necessarily be done in a malicious way. I don't believe it is. I think that obviously you can't satisfy everybody's expectation and obviously support everyone. But a lot of the time, those who are already doing things within the industry that is being supposedly supported are the ones who need the support the most, because through them already being established, and I'm talking about myself as well. We have to do everything ourselves. We have to fund everything ourselves. But if we were to have the actual support, we were to have the actual financial backing, and freedom to be able to invest in many more ventures as far as our artistry is concerned, etc., you'd see so much more financial impact and things that would actually truly bear fruits that people can actually enjoy on the long term, right? Whereas now, a lot of the projects, I'll see like some projects being financed by this and that organization, and it's just like, and it's a one-off, and it's not even like something that is being planned for a certain amount of time, because you can't see the evolution of a given project if you only, try it out once. It might not even work that first time. Certainly will not work. And so this is my point. This is where, I think that a lot of problem resides, that some people are put in positions of in position of decision. They're position of power. They have position of powers that they're not using to the maximum of their capacities, because mediocrity seems to be the predominant functionality now. It's like the more people get on, like the moment the people get seated in the right place, boom, they get into mediocre move. Maybe they were mediocre already then, but then they faked it well enough so that people would not even imagine that they would be mediocre, and then eventually you then realize that oh shit, I got fooled. I thought this person was this, that, and the other. And this is where you should not assume who anyone is. Really, you should just allow yourself to just see people for who they are. And again, I know it's not easy, but the thing is that those who can give back are those who are already in position but needing the support. And there is many people, like I'm telling you, like there's so many people that are just shy and ashamed to say that, hey, you know what, if I was to have access to more resources, I could do much more, and we could actually see further into details as to how we can implement some of these resources. Use these resources to put in place structures and means of creating, income and just a safety net, right? That eventually you won't create a middle class with any of this, but even you could actually create that, but there's no real incentive. And again, I'm focusing mostly on culture. This conversation is really, as you can see from the beginning, even though I was talking about, Goma, my experience at the Amani Festival, which was a great experience. It's all culture related. So culture is used to convey messages, to convey certain philosophy, to convey certain agendas. And even though this festival is happening every year, and I'm pretty sure, and I've met people that really, really, are really doing this, believing they're doing well. And I think they are doing some good stuff. But the thing is that we need many more initiatives that really push forward and further. Giovanni Copogo says, does giving back have to be known at all to be efficient for the people who are receiving it? Because sometimes giving back is it's like big noise on it. Yeah, again, I agree with you. You don't need to be promoting the giving back, right? But the thing is that I'm talking within circles. Like sometimes when you speak to certain investors, you speak to certain people with power, with money and influence, their conception is very limited. And it's almost like, well, I'll give you an example. Well, if your project is not serving the greater good of the community, why should I invest in it? The thing is that if myself, I am not stable enough in the sense that I cannot provide for myself, how can I provide for others? Oh, but what do you mean? Oh, that you should first be rich and then while everybody's suffering? But the thing is that misery loves company. So no, should not be rich, but I should be able to actually not stress about, having to cover this, and that cost, which that stress being alleviated from me through the support or through the providing of resources, allow me to allocate more of my energy to see how I can contribute, whether it's contributing with knowledge, whether, you know what I mean? All of these things, right? But when you don't have access to it, you create the resources. And so I'm not crying for it because I'm creating the resource for myself. And the only way I can give back, besides, my voice and using this platform, my YouTube channel, or the music, etc., is that, so more than that, yeah, maybe, and people are like, yeah, but nobody's asking you to put any money. But the thing is that the situation is so deep, it is so problematic. When people don't have enough to afford the basic meal, 3 meals a day, or even just 2 meals a day, or even sometimes 1 meal a day, how do you expect them to think? Ventre vide n'a pas d'oreille. Empty belly doesn't have no ears. So, and you should not be fooling yourself by thinking that, it's only in Africa. There's many people even here, people that don't have the basics to survive this brutal fucking life. And yeah, you might say, well, who told them to be artists? Well, who told you to be dumb? And I'm not saying that, because you're an artist, you should just be there with your arms crossed and expecting this, expecting that. And by artists, I mean creative. And as a matter of fact, talking about artists, there is a bit of a separation that is made between the different arts. If it's visual arts, culinary arts, people get support. People will have, financiers, etc., 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 etc. Okay, maybe not all of them, but there's always going to be that one person that's going to break through, and eventually everyone underneath might get a little bit of the crumbs. But that's the point. The situation here is that you got to be able to put together initiatives that not only are rooted in long-term vision and meeting goals on a yearly basis. I had a chance to meet Kehinde Wiley. Kehinde Wiley, who's, amazing photographer, painter, artist, sorry. But I think he also does photography, if I'm not wrong. He painted the famous portrait of Barack and Michelle Obama, amongst so many other portraits that he's done, and it is very much inspired by death, right? I met him in Senegal because he has his Black Rock project, which is a great residency for artists, and he hosts artists from all over the continent, etc., the world as well, and empowers them, gives them opportunities to express their artistry, hold residencies, and eventually come out of there with some sort of impact made in their lives. And I'm not taking away the human equation in the conversation, where it's also a question of personalities. Some people just don't have the drive or the will to succeed. They're not willing to do the work, because if you think about it, you can be presented with an opportunity, but if you're not prepared, you will never seize the opportunity. So even in that, there needs to be education. There needs to be a real deep, in-depth education of the mind. Empowering people is not just giving them access to resources, which would be financial, material, etc. No, it's also, I would even say it's first and foremost the mind. If you don't muscle this thing, you're not prepared to not only welcome the blessing that you're going to have bestowed upon you by having access to resources, the wisdom that is required to have, in order for you to make the most proactive use of what is given to you as far as resources. Giovanni Kopogo is saying, yes, indeed, big bro. I agree with you on that. empty stomach. It's real issues in this world, even here in France. For example, the young people who are studying and going to university. Exactly. So the thing is this, right? So, but this is a system. And they'll say, yeah, but, we're doing this, we're doing that. Yeah, but my question to you is, how is that impacting these kids or these young people, women and men's life? Like, answer my question, bro. And I understand, I am, as much as I would love to be an idealist, and I think I still am to a certain extent, but I'm a realist. I'm not a pessimistic person, but I'm a realist. I know for a fact, even though we all have it in us to succeed, not all of us will succeed. Not all of us will be able to achieve the highest realm of success, etc., and personal achievement. And that is a very personal thing for a lot of people. The thing is that if you're really not giving people the chance to see in them this capacity, because you're hammering them with costs of lives that they can't afford. Again, a decent meal, a decent house, a decent apartment, whatever the case may be. When people have to think about their survival, what do you think is going to happen? I don't know. You tell me, right? And so there's got to be some social engineering in place. There's got to be some, different ways to look at capitalism. I mean, I think that there's ways to make money and still be able to distribute the money while still be making profit and all of that. Social capitalism and all of that. You know what I mean? So where is that? Where is that to be seen? You hear about all of this great project that, how is that impacting people? Like the other day, I was talking to this Ukrainian woman. So with the actual conflict going on in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, this woman was sharing with me that, her family is still in Kyiv and they don't have access to electricity, or even water is complicated, and, internet is all these stuff are super complicated. And then I'm like, okay, hold on. So Elon Musk sent out satellites and all of these different things. There's been so much contribution, right? And it's like, okay, and I don't have the answer, but I'm asking the question. If even there, with all this help, it seems like it's not it's not enough to help the people who are suffering. And we're talking about Europeans, or Eastern Europeans, however you want to, call it, because since now there's all these different, the world is going crazy now with all these things. You don't even know what to say anymore. But the thing is that as Africans, my point being, you cannot continue to expect that the Westerner or the Africans abroad, as Sister Woman would say, can provide the support or can be there for us on the continent. And maybe one might say, but there never really was. Maybe. But the bottom line is, nobody is supposed to give you a handout. So now we have to discuss how is the best way to engineer a system that can allow those who are least favored by, access to, great internet resources of all sorts at a relatively low cost, because we know in Africa how things can be very expensive. And that is a question that needs to be posed and that needs to be really addressed. I believe, first and foremost, is education. If we are not being educated that we're capable to do great things, at the condition that we really work to make these things happen. Because you cannot do any great things if you're not working, educating yourself, and pushing hard towards making them happen. And they won't happen overnight. The things that was this new generation, and not even just this new generation, but I think even people my generation, a little bit older, people have even become that way. It's like they want instant results. It doesn't work like that. You have to let the process of life take its course. You have to let people evolve. You have to allow people to take their place in this environment that they're about to occupy. See if it fits with them or not. You know what I mean? These are not plans on 2 years, 3 years. And you can establish plans like that. But these are plans on 50 years. Well, maybe we might not even see these plans through. But those after us needs to continue. And there needs to be implementations at a state level, policy level, constitution level, where it's a must that we look further than just the next 5 years or 2 years. For all we know, we might not even have that much. But who wants to live with little hope or no hope at all? And much as I'm a realist, I'm a person that still believes that anything and everything is possible in a positive way. But not denying the fact that negativity is around. Not denying the fact that, we can deal at any moment with things that will disrupt our lives. But as Africans, we are used to be disrupted. Your everyday life, unless you come from a wealthy family, and even if you come from a wealthy family, your life, your livelihood can be put into jeopardy at the very moment there's a new government in place and you're no longer the ruling elite. Your shit gets stripped from you. Then your ass gets in the street and you end up, having to fucking use taxis, this and that and the other, or live abroad, with very limited resources than the ones you had. Question is, what were you doing when you were having access to all these resources? And a lot of these people don't give a fuck about these informations because we have it now. Fuck your nonsense. Pardon my French, I might not be monetized now that I use these words, but that's my show. I do what I want. But the point is that you cannot expect progress, even if when you see some of the future generations of the African elite, and I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them acting like spoiled brats and not being conscious of the fact that no resources is eternal. Let that sink in. No resources is eternal. You have to work to maintain that. You have to, you cannot just expect things to just work because they're working. No. There's people behind these things that allow them to work and function. And again, we cannot expect anyone to come and save us from ourselves, from our demise. And artistry, arts in general in Africa are more than ever pregnant with so many talents. The world of art is so rich of talents. And yet, you wonder when there's going to be an actual gathering of truly powerful, successful minds, right? Truly powerful African artists, women and men alike, deciding to create something that is not only gonna be benefiting their kids, but other people's kids and the future, impacting their continent in a global way from a local standpoint. Because the dynamic is to start at a very low level in a local way, starting to work on these implementations and starting to see how those different projects can bear fruits. When you start seeing that, okay, this works, and I know for a fact these experiments have been done and they've proven to be working. The thing is that they didn't benefit anymore from any more investment or funding. And we have very intelligent people that present great projects that get dismissed all the time. And then other projects that have no added value, makes no goddamn sense, but that gets financed with millions and millions of euros, or hundreds of thousands of euros. Explain to me why the dichotomy. Even though I know the dichotomy, I know the channels, I know why these things are messed up. But I still have to pose the question, since we all been, treated like dumb people, let's act dumb then. Give me a very simple answer to that question. Because, I don't get it. I really don't. And it's not like making moves towards truly empowering your people nationwide. I mean, I'm just talking about like from a standpoint of your country, wherever you are from. If you empower your youth, give them the access, they're not going to turn against anyone. No, because the thing is that when people are given opportunities to fulfill, or at least have access to means that can help them reach a certain understanding that, okay, this is possible. Who wants disruption that can cause imbalance in the country? People want peace, man. People want to be able to live their lives happily. They want to be able to go back to their home, to their family, and know that there's food on the table. That tomorrow there is enough to pay for their telephone, their electricity bills, that you don't need to be, setting up a freaking, OnlyFans account and selling, pictures and videos of you doing things that will offend or will be used against your children in the future, if you ever have any, and things that you might be ashamed of them knowing about, but their friends at school will know about. And then, we're gonna have to empower you and say, well, it's okay, my body, my choice. Well, but what about your kids? That's the thing. Like, we do things and it's okay. We are free to do whatever we want. It's okay. All good, man. I'm not criticizing that, but I'm just saying, I think that, and again, there's always going to be people that want to make easy money, and that's fine. We need that as well. We need all of it, but we need a predominance of actual true access to resources. We need implementation of things that, first of all, push for education, and while educating, providing people with a certain stability of life. Because technically, if you really think about it, helping a family out survive on a monthly basis in any given country in Africa is not crazy money, man. Especially if you are super wealthy, and especially if there's a plan. And we know now very well, I mean, there's enough people who've studied societies that can be asked to help for this kind of projects. Because the problem is that individually, yes, I can do what I do, but the problem is that, for example, if you talk about like Web3, majority of people on the African continent doesn't even know what it means. And Europe is not even a majority of people that know what it means, let alone Web2, let alone the history of internet. Education is key. I remember when I was a kid, my father had painted, there was a painter that came to, because I was homeschooled, and I literally had a classroom, and my teachers, I had like, personal teachers that would come to the house and teach me, all those, things that you learn at school, history, geography, math, whatever. And on the wall was written, "From education is birthed great nations." From education is birthed great nations. Or if you want to change it around, great nations are birthed from education. People need to be educated. People need to be able to be educated about their past so that they can be truly rooted in their present in order to build and extend their strength and their arms for the future.